This is a CBC podcast.
This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. It's been a tough year for music makers. COVID-19 largely halted live shows and touring, but artists can be very resourceful and resilient. Many have found new and exciting ways to share their creations during these difficult times, whether it's engaging in new forms, experimenting with new platforms, or looking to the past for inspiration. Today on the show, we're looking at all the ways Indigenous artists are keeping the music going. Edward Kalanikini Maxwell Wan and his brother, Gregory Kahikina Maxwell Wan, are part of the Hawaiian band Nava'eha. The four-piece band is made up of two sets of brothers. Nava'eha's now Grammy-nominated album, Lovely Sunrise, was inspired by the music of Billy Gonsalves and his Paradise Serenaders. I've reached out to Edward and Gregory at their home in Wailuku, Maui. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's our honor.
So, did you grow up playing music together?
We were always surrounded by Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian music. Before we were even brought into the world, so I guess you can say it was bound to happen, or it was inevitable for us to either become hula dancers or, so to say, now musicians.
And how were you around music before you were even brought into the world?
Our grandmother and our mother they are hula practitioners. Our grandparents as well. They've been in the Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian scene before we even brought into this world.
And what about you, Edward? What are your first, or earliest memories of music?
So before we were born, my mother was a hula student for my tutu, or my grandmother, for her halau pukulani hula hale. And my grandfather, he was actually a Hawaiian cultural specialist and also a kahu, which is a Hawaiian priest. And he used to do many things. He was also, I guess what you could call, if you were to put a label on it, a Hawaiian activist. So he did many things for the Hawaiian community. And so, we definitely grew up around the Hawaiian music, and where it stemmed was from the Hawaiian culture and our family being very active in it before we were born.
And did the two of you play music together when you were little?
Yes, we actually played with the help of our grandfather, Charles Kuluvehi Maxwell. As soon as we were able to pick up the ukulele, being around Hawaiian culture and my grandmother having a hula halau or hula class or group, we would always go up on stage and act like we were performing with them.
And Edward and Gregory, you're one half of the band, Nava'eha, and your other two bandmates, they're also brothers, and you're all from Maui. So did you all grow up knowing each other and seeing each other?
The first occurrence, or when we first met each other, was at the passing of my grandfather at his funeral, and their family came over to our grandfather's house, and we met them there. We didn't know much about them. We knew they sort of played Hawaiian music, they danced hula and stuff like that. But that was our first meetup with them, and what was crazy to find out when we made the band 3 or so years ago was that their mom had danced hula alongside with my mom under my tutu, or my grandmother, back in the day before we were even born.
That almost feels like a very serendipitous family connection. How did you find that out?
Our mother, she kind of connected the dots when she found out that we were deciding to make this band or join and become a band. And so she gave us the history of how their family is actually closer than we thought.
It was really meant to be for us to cross paths and form this type of bond with two sets of brothers in order to make the group Nava'eha.
And we always talk about how it was kind of almost destined to be back in the day before we were even born, kind of thing. And it's crazy how we all can sing, and we were given that gift to be able to sing and Olelo Hawaii, or speak in the Hawaiian language too.
That's pretty amazing. So you're both in your 20s, and so are your other bandmates. You're all in your 20s, but your latest album is inspired by Hawaiian music from the 1960s. How did you get interested in playing this kind of music?
Being surrounded by Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian language, we kind of have some old souls to us, but we owe it up to another idol, or I would say a mentor in Hawaii. Uncle Samuel Kalani Ako, and he was actually part of the Paradise Serenaders, and that was the whole reason why we did this project.
A quick little travel back to the beginning of how it started was we were approached by a guy named Zachary Lum. He is from Oahu. He's an awesome musician. He approached us with this idea to begin this project because Uncle Sam, he's going through dementia. And we wanted to capture their style of music and their sound before it was too late. And so we're fortunate, we're blessed enough to learn it from him before he forgot. And we wanted to take their style and also make it our own, but also not let that sound die.
So your new album, Lovely Sunrise, is actually in honor of Uncle Samuel Ako. Can you tell us a bit more about who Uncle Samuel Ako is?
Yes, Uncle Sam Ako, he is from the district of Lahaina on Maui. He's a local boy, awesome musician all his life. He wrote many compositions, and he was part of the band Paradise Serenaders, and he was one of the original composers for the band Paradise Serenaders. He would arrange the music to say, oh, okay, here is what you are going to sing, here's what you're going to sing, designate what notes and what keys to play for each song.
So you actually worked alongside Uncle Sam on this album. What was that process like?
So Uncle Sam, he was more so like the feel of the music rather than the mechanics of the music. Zach was more on the mechanic side, and Uncle Sam was more on the feel, more on the, take me back to this type of era. The practice would look like we'd all sit around the piano, and as soon as we run a song through, Uncle Sam would give us the yay or nay on it, and he would then give us his own opinion as to, okay, this is where we should have this, and it sounds nice, or he would crack a joke. It was really an awesome experience.
When your album Lovely Sunrise was released, I've heard that some of the Paradise Serenaders were actually at your CD release show in Oahu. Can you tell me about that?
Before our show, we were waiting to go on in the green room, and someone told us that, hey, the original members of the Paradise Serenaders are going to be attending our show. And I was thinking to myself, oh no, like, we need to hit all of our notes, all of our keys, all of our harmonies, and we need to pray that we don't screw up, because if we screw up, then they're gonna definitely know that we screw up, because they know all of the parts and all of the harmonies, who's hitting what. So I was a little nervous.
At the end of the party, we got to meet them. They gave us a treat and sang one of their songs called Silver Sword. And they're well in age. They're very old, and when they were singing to us, we still could hear that same sound as if they were young and they were back in their day. It was really, really nice to hear the original compared to what we sing, and how we kind of made it our own and brought it back from their time to our time. It was a thrilling experience.
And so what did they say? What did the Paradise Serenaders say about your music?
They really enjoyed it. It was like a blast from the past. They were really thrilled that we were able to keep their music alive, kind of like passing the torch to the next generation.
Most Indigenous people from across the world, we all talk about honoring our elders and, paying them the respects. To see, 4 young men take up these songs and teachings in a way must have been really heartwarming for them.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Edward and Gregory, mahalo for talking with me today.
Thank you very much.
So much.
It was definitely our honor.
Edward Kaliniki Maxwell Wan and his brother Gregory Kahikina Maxwell Wan are part of the Hawaiian band Nava'eha. Their latest album, Lovely Sunrise, was recently nominated for a Grammy Award in the Best Regional Roots Music Album category. To find out more about their music, you can head to our website, cbc.ca/unreserved. This is Unreserved on CBC Radio 1, Sirius XM 169, and Native Voice 1. I'm Phelan Johnson. Checking out new music by Indigenous artists on the show this week. And a daring new interpretation of Handel's Messiah is really challenging what audiences expect from classical and Indigenous music. Late last year, Against the Grain Theatre released Messiah Complex, with performances from across the country recorded in various languages, including songs performed in Indigenous languages. Diet, a musician from Kluane First Nation in the Yukon, was invited to work on the project and performs the song O Thou Tellest Good Tidings to Zion in the Southern Shoshone language. She joins me from her home in Burwash Landing, Yukon. Welcome to the show, Diet.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, how did you get involved in this project?
Well, I was approached by Against the Grain, Joel at Against the Grain, about this project because the premise was that they were looking across the country for Indigenous and people of color who were, singers. And in the Yukon, my name popped up because my training is classical. So I have a degree in music, which is what my focus was, classical voice. But mind you, that's been like 20 years ago that I finished that degree. So, when we first talked about this, I was not totally convinced that it was a good idea or a good choice. Just, because of the context in which the music is from. When Handel wrote this in the early part of the 1700s, it's really when the British colonial adventure was, starting to ramp up. And in my own life, and I think in my own career, I've been really conscious in the last, 10, 15 years of the music that I write and that I perform, that it's true to who I am and what I believe in. And, sometimes when things first rub you the wrong way or they frighten you, for me, it's always an opportunity to look at that again and ask why. So why does this feel weird to me? And why am I feeling so strongly about it? And then, Joel, he was so open to having that discussion. And when we were able to discuss further what this piece was and what it could mean to me, then we started really getting into the meat of, for me, taking a piece of very colonial music and decolonizing it.
And so right off the bat, you knew that you wanted to perform your song in your language, Southern Shoshone. So why was that so important to you?
Well, my language is right at almost at the center of who I feel like I am. and it's for several reasons. One of the big reasons is that my language is in a very precarious situation right now. And in my community, we have, I can count on one hand the living fluent speakers of our dialect of Southern Shoshone. And I'm a learner and I'm also a teacher of this language. So for me, when I thought about this piece, and the English words of this piece talks about going up into the mountains and sort of heralding, sharing this great news, right? And where I live is in the mountains. The Kluane region of the Yukon we're living amongst the highest peaks in the whole country. There's these huge majestic mountains, and my people are called Daltuchan, which means mountain people. And so I really felt like we could connect the words and the meaning of what that feeling of being a mountain person is like in a piece of music that is quite joyful. That was a task and that I couldn't undertake myself because, and so I had to ask for help for that.
And I hear that you asked your grandmother for help. Is that right? What was the process like of working with her?
My granny is awesome. She's 91 and she's just full of energy, and she's my mentor and my teacher. And when I approached her with this, I have to say, my grandma's also, she's religious. So, she thought this was a cool project for me to do. When we talked about this language and our language is really land-based. It's based in land in this particular region. So she said, I think we can do this. And she was really up for the task and she was relentless in it. And it took us, over a month to to recreate this song in Southern Shoshone so that it fit within the context of the music. And our language is also tonal. So, changing tones can change a word. So we had to fit those words tonally to the music that's already established. So that was a huge challenge. And she was right on it the whole time. And it really helped me to task.
That's like the ultimate project to do with your granny.
It is. And, when she watched the final product and she saw this video and heard the words, she had tears, tears streaming down her face. And, she said, "Oh, it makes me feel so good. It feels like," she said, "it feels like my dad when he used to talk about our mountains." And she really felt those words, and it was very touching.
And so Messiah is an oratorio and based in Christian theology, but your approach to performing and translating the lyrics was a bit different. How did you interpret the song you performed?
This song is about the Creator, but Creator in all things. And the words say, go to the top of the tallest mountain and share with everyone this good news that our Creator is here with us and in all things. And the words have this built-in feeling of kind of of knowing that you're not alone and that the Creator is in all things, living and non-living. It's everywhere. So that's sort of what our version is. And it's not so far from the English version, but it's not specifically, about Jesus Christ.
So there's a visual component, as you were mentioning, to this project, with each performer visually capturing their interpretation of the song. Can you describe the video that you shot?
I worked with two amazing guys. They're my friends, Alistair Maitland and Brendan Preston. And we wanted to tell this joyful story, but because these words are so land-based and they're so region-based, it's specific, right? We knew that we wanted to capture the mountains, and we wanted to capture this landscape because it's so much a part of what the song is. But we also wanted to talk about a journey and that feeling that, we live in this incredible nature. So that's what we wanted to capture, is people and community and that connection to the land.
And what kind of response are you hearing from people when they experience these new recordings of Handel's Messiah?
I have received an overwhelming response of people, just not understanding a word, however, being completely touched and can feel what those words mean. We've been so blessed to receive a lot of press, like a lot of incredible press about this project. And I think the reason why is that it's what people need right now. Right now, we're really isolated, and we are looking for that connection and that thing that, makes you feel like there's something more and something deeper. And not just my piece, but if you watch the whole entire Messiah, and you see each performer, it's so intimate and almost personal, but at the same time so relatable to everyone that language in the end doesn't matter. The music and the feeling speaks to everybody in so many deep ways. I made a comment that I thought Handel would dig it if he was still alive, and I stand by that. As far as, at that time when he was alive, he was a pretty progressive person and somebody who, his music was not stuck in the times, and it was not stuck in the politics of the times. It transcended a lot of those things. I think he would approve.
Yeah, I think so too. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
My pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Diet is a musician from the Kluane First Nation in the Yukon. She was one of the artists featured in Against the Grain's Messiah Complex, a new interpretation of Handel's Messiah. To watch the performance free of charge, visit agttheater.com. It's available until January 31st. The music industry is challenging enough at the best of times. But in the middle of a pandemic, without shows to play, artists needed to find new ways to support themselves. Matthew Cardinal's ambient soundscape record, Asterisms, was given a traditional release through the Arts and Crafts record label. But he started to find support in more independent places too. Cardinal also plays bass and synth for the Polaris shortlisted moccasin gaze band Nahiawak. He's from the Lac La Biche area, and he joins me now. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So, to someone who hasn't heard your new record, could you describe what it sounds like?
It's a sparkly sounding melodic ambient, I suppose. Something like that. All of the tracks are, they're dates. They're all named after the day they were recorded. And an asterism, I guess, in literature, it would be something that would call attention to the following passage or something like that. So I think it's an informal constellation, a collection of stars. And I thought, it was becoming an audio journal. So that's what I decided what the album should be.
Your album is available on streaming platforms like Spotify, but in promotion of your album, you often post links to Bandcamp. Could you explain to our listeners what Bandcamp is and why you prefer to share your music that way?
Bandcamp is a platform for musicians or labels or really anyone that has audio where you can just upload that audio and sell it.
So, for comparison, a streaming site like Spotify will give you less than a cent per stream, but Bandcamp will give you 15% of an overall album sale.
Yeah, you're better compensated for sure compared to streaming services. Like the amount of money you can get it's substantially more. It's like exponential. You stream a song once on Spotify and it's a fraction of a cent will go to that artist. And, of course, that also gets broken up. If it's a band, it'll get broken up between the band members. If it's on a label, if they have management, I guess it all depends on the contracts and everything, but it can be broken up by quite a big number. So when you're getting something from Bandcamp, that money goes pretty much directly to the artist, and you buy a song for $1. That's, I don't know, a couple hundred streams. So it's a very good way to support artists.
Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Activist, musician, residential school, and 60s scoop survivor, legend. All these words could describe late musician Curtis Shingoose Johnny. The 74-year-old Ojibwe entertainer passed away earlier this month due to complications after contracting COVID-19. Shingoose had a long career in the arts. He recorded numerous albums and worked with Bruce Cockburn in the studio. Shingoose advocated alongside Buffy Sainte-Marie and Elaine Bomberry for the creation of an Aboriginal music category at the Juno Awards. He also produced and hosted the variety show Indian Time. He was inducted into the Manitoba Music Hall of Fame in 2012, and in 2016 he was featured on the Grammy-nominated album Native North America Volume 1. But he was also a father and a grandfather. CBC's Sam Sampson spoke to his daughter, Nahani Shingoose, about how she will remember her dad.
Oh my goodness, playing his music. One of his favorite things to do was play his guitar for us. And he was a humble guy. He didn't have very much sometimes. He would have an apartment and, a few furnishings and his guitar. And one of my favorite memories, actually, this is what we talked about before Christmas was, my favorite memory of him playing Stevie Nicks' Landslide song. And it's about a relationship between father and daughter. And, I used to wait for him at my farmhouse. I used to wait and look out the window and watch him come over the snow-covered hills. And so, music helps us to heal and laughter helps us to heal. And he would want that for us. In this postcard here that I have, my husband and I lit a candle yesterday. And then I went downstairs and got out the pictures and the postcards. And in the postcard it says, light a candle and think of me every time. And it was just, he was right there, right away. So I know he's dancing and singing free from his wheelchair up there in the spirit world.
Curtis Shingoose Johnny passed away earlier this month after contracting COVID-19. That's it for this week's episode of Unreserved. We have a playlist of all the music featured on the episode this week on our website. You can find that at cbc.ca/unreserved. This episode was produced by Stephanie Cram, Kyle Musica, Zoe Tennant, and Anna Lazowski. I'm Phelan Johnson. Now a go for listening.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.